Hello everyone. Today I will recap you a movie titled Saw 2004. So make some tea and we'll start. A young man named Adam wakes up underwater in a bathtub. The room is pitch dark. He tries to orient himself in space, calls for help, and asks to turn on the light. A voice from the darkness says that shouting is pointless, and he still manages to turn on the light in the room. A bright flash of lamps blinds Adam. He recovers for a few moments, and then looks around. He and another guy, Gordon, are in a disgusting abandoned room. Between them on the floor lies a corpse with a bullet through the head. He has a Walkman in one hand and a gun in the other. The men try to approach him and find that their feet are chained to the batteries. Adam becomes hysterical, and his neighbor in misfortune starts talking to him to calm him down somehow. From the conversation, we learn that Gordon is a surgeon. None of the guys recognize the body of the deceased, and none of them remembers how they got here. A brand new clock is hanging on the wall, and then immediately comes the guess that someone wants them to keep track of time. Suddenly, Adam finds a film in his pocket, and Gordon finds a bullet and a key. The key does not fit any lock on the chains. When he gets to the player, Adam decides to listen to the tape. A hoarse voice informs that Gordon must kill his neighbor before 6 p.m. Otherwise, his wife and daughter will die. However, they can both come out victorious if they use the clues that are hidden throughout the room. And finally, the voice advises to follow the call of the heart. A painted heart is immediately found on the toilet bowl barrel. The guy lifts the lid and finds 2 hacksaws wrapped in a bag. They cannot cut the chains, and then the realization comes that they have to cut off their legs. And Gordon guesses who is capable of all this, but he knows about it because he was a suspect himself. He starts the story again. A group of detectives found a man completely entangled in barbed wire. He flew out of the cage at her with such force that it was even surprising how he managed to escape so far. The same player was found at the crime scene. The unknown reports that if the guy wants to get out of the cage, he will have to cut himself. A piece of the puzzle was found on the body of the wounded man. That's why the newspapers called the maniac the Jigsaw. In fact, he did not kill anyone, but only created situations in which the victims killed themselves. At the last crime scene, Detective Allison found a surveillance hole in the wall, as well as the criminal's flashlight. Gordon switches to himself. He is in the hospital and tells the students about a serious case of the disease, and suddenly, the investigators call him. The flashlight found at the crime scene belongs to our surgeon. It becomes obvious that they want to frame him. Fortunately, Gordon's alibi was confirmed. The detectives ask him to stay. They found a girl named Amanda who managed to get out of the trap, and she is ready to tell about everything. A reverse trap device was attached to her head. The helmet fixes the lower and upper jaws, and in the end, her head will just be torn apart. Of course, the trap can be opened. The key is in the stomach of a dead cellmate. As it turned out, she cut open the stomach of a still living man and freed herself in the last moments. A clown on a bicycle rode into her room and congratulated her on her victory. Before that, the woman was a drug addict with experience, but after this ordeal, she began to appreciate life. These stories do not calm Adam at all, and he begins to suspect the doctor, because from where he has so much information. In a fit of anger, he takes a fragment of the mirror and notices that it is two-sided. The guy breaks the glass under the ceiling, where a hidden camera is installed. The fact that they are being watched infuriates him, and he blames his neighbor again, only for the reason that he is too calm. Gordon admits that he never stops thinking about his daughter for a second. Most recently, she had a terrible dream about a man, and the girl asked her dad to check the room. She is afraid that her father will leave them, but the man promises her that this will not happen. As proof, he throws away his wallet with family photos. The most recent photo shows a wife and daughter tied up, and on the back there is a message saying that the right places are marked with a cross, and also the fact that sometimes you can see much more with your eyes closed. Adam pretends that this photo is not in his wallet and returns it to the owner. The man that Gordon's daughter saw turned out to be not a dream, but the same orderly who distracted Gordon at the very beginning of the film. He ties the baby and Gordon's wife to the bed. For some reason, he measures his pulse, breathing, and points a gun at their faces. The orderly does not even realize that the detective is already watching him from the window of this apartment. David is reviewing the recording for Amanda again, and suddenly notices key-to-key fragments in the background. These are fragments of a little-known criminal group. In the background of the video, the sound of a fire siren is heard, and she and her partner quickly find the place where a fire recently occurred. The detectives decide not to wait for permission for the warrant and immediately go to the old mannequin factory. Right now, the men are in the room where the maniac is watching his victims. There they find a bathroom model with Adam and Gordon dolls, as well as Billy the clown doll. A man tied to a chair starts moaning under a red cloth, but the men cover him and hide when they hear the maniac's footsteps. A man in a robe approaches the victim and begins to comfort him, saying that he gives him a second chance at life. They don't let him finish. The detectives rush into the room and catch him. Of course, the criminal is not so simple. He presses the red button and the game begins. It was as if everything had been planned in advance. A person can be released only with the help of one of the many keys. The cops decide to stop all this, and in the end, David gets stabbed in the throat with a blade, and the criminal runs away. The detective's partner catches up with him and shoots him. He falls dead. But all this turned out to be just a distraction for an Asian detective who hooked a fishing line and was left without a head. Wounded David saw with his own eyes the death of a colleague, so he became even more obsessed with finding the killer. The action switches back to our heroes. Adam looks at a previously hidden photo and asks his neighbor to turn off the light. There is a cross on the wall behind Gordon. Obviously, it had to be illuminated before it could be seen. A man finds a small box in the wall. It contains a mobile phone, a cigarette with a lighter and a note. Adam really wants to smoke, and when he sees a cigarette, he almost starts hysterical. The note says that the cigarette itself is harmless, but if you feed it with the blood of a corpse in the middle of the room, it will become deadly poisonous. Gordon doesn't think long and calls the police, but his mobile only supports incoming calls. He recalls that earlier he had already had such a problem with the phone, and the man in a red jumpsuit and a pig mask was to blame for everything. Then the guy thought about it and asked Adam how he realized that the light needed to be turned off. The guy tries to make a joke, but then he still shows the photo. Gordon becomes enraged and pretends to take the chance to kill Adam. He dips the cigarette in the blood and puts it back in the box. In the dark, he asks his neighbor to play along and throws him a clean cigarette. Adam's great acting comes into play here. He pretends to choke and falls to the floor. Literally a second later, he jumps from a strong electric shock. The doctor thinks he deliberately played badly to make the plan fail. He gets angry and tries to cut the chain again. At this time, Adam suddenly remembers how he was kidnapped. By profession, so to speak, he is a photographer. The next evening, he comes home and starts showing photos, but soon falls asleep right at the table. When he comes to, he realizes that the lights in the whole house are turned off, and then he hears strange noises. The flash from the camera helps to illuminate his room and those who are in it, namely, a clown. Adam destroys it with a bat and decides to take another picture. Unfortunately, the last one. The time is approaching 6. There is a call from an old mobile phone. Gordon picks up the phone and hears his daughter crying and then his beloved wife. She tries to help and says not to believe a single word because the maniac knows literally everything about his victims. Gordon is once again angry at his neighbor in misfortune, and then memories and understanding of what is happening also return to him. Adam took a picture of him in the parking lot that night, and besides, he had been following him for several days. He knew very well that the doctor was cheating on his wife. During one of these visits to the hotel, he received a threatening phone call. Starting to reflect, they think that the one who ordered the surveillance of Gordon is a maniac. The photographer describes the person who ordered the pictures, and all the parameters lead them to Detective David. The doctor is furious that the detective constantly suspects him and is literally obsessed with surveillance, and his cellmate helped him in this. The guys calm down a bit and find additional photos. They depict an orderly looking out of a window. Sam begins to worry that he has been recognized, but at this very moment time is running out. He approaches the bound woman and lets her say goodbye to her husband. And that was his mistake. The girl was already able to unclench her hands and attack the criminal, intercepting the gun. A real shootout began, which attracted the detective's attention. He could not detain the orderly, but he managed to delay the time during which the mother and the girl managed to escape. Gordon is pierced by a wave of current. He shakes in convulsions with foam at his mouth. The orderly and the detective rush to the place of imprisonment of our heroes, continuing to hunt each other. and the doctor gradually comes to his senses and aimlessly shakes the chain. At this time, the phone will ring, but it is not possible to reach it, and at this moment the man finally goes crazy. He clamps one edge of his shirt with his teeth, bandages his leg with the other, and begins to cut it off. On the other side of the room, Adam is just screaming from the horror he saw. The detective finally pins the orderly to the wall, but Sam is not so simple and kills him. Freed from the chains, Gordon crawls to the gun. He apologizes to Adam and shoots him. Obviously, the doctor hurried to cut off his leg because his family members are alive, and almost unharmed, he begs to be let out, and Sam enters the room. He reports that all the conditions have been met, but alas, time has run out. These are the rules. In fact, he had to make sure that all the tasks were completed. Adam was alive because Gordon did not kill him intentionally, but only wounded him in the shoulder. A minute of fighting, and the orderly is beaten to death. As a result, the doctor crawls away for help and the photographer begins to search the pockets of his victim, hoping to find the key to the chain, but he finds a record player for Sam there. The jigsaw informs that the orderly's blood is poisoned, and he will be able to escape only if he kills the mother and her child. Suddenly, the corpse in the middle of the room comes to life and informs Adam that the key to the chain is in the bathtub. But only he was washed away when the guy tried not to drown and pulled out the water plug by inertia at the very beginning. This very corpse is the jigsaw and concurrently the most difficult patient, about whose case Gordon told the students. A person is tired of the fact that the disease eats him from the inside. He's also tired of people who don't value their happiness. And only out of the kindness of his heart, he gives people a chance for a new vision. Most people in our world don't value life, but not our heroes. The game is over.